With no successor to the Osmo Action last year, which is still a fantastic camera as it is, finally it seems that DJI was just biding its time to come up with something a little different. And here it is. This is the modular, metal and mini DJI Action 2. Where the Osmo Action was pretty much a GoPro clone, DJI decided to drop the Osmo name as well as rethink the form factor. Now the Action 2 represents a total reinvention that aims to create its own niche rather than fight head to head with the formidable GoPro Hero 10 Black. And if you hadn't guessed already, much like the Insta360 1R, the Action 2 is a modular system and comes in several pieces, namely a forward-facing screen as we have in our package here, or with a battery module option too. Although unlike the Insta360, which needs all three parts to be together in order to operate, with the Action 2 users can get away with using the camera module alone. The core camera lens module is a square 39mm cube with a depth of 22.3mm. At just 56 grams, it's also very light, which is important considering DJI also market this as a wearable camera too. As for the design, that's been kept as simple as possible. On the front, alongside a single microphone pinhole and status LED, is a bold lens with a few words surrounding it, 155-degree field of view, f2.8 and 1.7 inch. All specs that are highly competitive to the GoPro's Hero 10 Black. Unlike the GoPro though, the glass covering the lens is not replaceable, so if it's scratched or cracked in any way, it'll be an expensive fix or a complete replacement. Nevertheless, on the top is a single button used to power and start or stop capture and does need some force to operate, minimizing accidental button presses. While around the back is a 1.76-inch screen, which is tiny set against that of the GoPro, but it's also very sharp with a pixel density of 350 pixels per inch and a resolution of 445 by 424, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Like the Hero 10 Black, this main module is waterproof up to 10 feet, which is roughly the same 33 meters as its main competition, but otherwise there's not much else to see. No fiddly ports or doors to mess around with. The camera itself does have 32GB of built-in memory for times when it's used alone, although that's expandable by introducing the modular aspect of the system by way of several accessories, one of which is the front-facing screen. And if you're wondering how the Action 2 attaches to its modular mates, it works with magnets and clamps. The base of the Action 2 incorporates communication connectors, and the top plate of the module features strong magnets that maintain a serious attraction. As they draw closer to one another, the module's two metal spring-loaded clamps clasp onto the base of the Action 2, and they stay in place really firm. There's no separating them unless you pinch both sides perfectly and pull the components apart. It actually works really well. The only accessory that relies exclusively on the magnets and doesn't use the clamp is the neck strap that comes in the package, and although the magnet is fairly strong, I wouldn't use it anywhere too extreme, on a roller coaster for instance. Also in the package we find a GoPro style mount, again with clasps on either side to securely hold the main camera module, ensuring you don't lose your camera during even the toughest shooting conditions. As well as a ball head, which also comes in very handy, and the mounting system makes it very easy to clamp the main camera module on and off its mounts. There's no screwing a fiddly screw that can go missing, and no need to struggle with traditional GoPro mounts. You simply unsnap and snap the camera between them. Nice and easy. And the hold is a lot firmer than I expected too. Moving on, if you need the forward-facing screen, you'll want to grab the pricier dual screen combo. It puts the exact same screen that the Action 2 has on the back on the front as well, so you can make sure you're always in the shot. It's also fully touch sensitive and just as dinky as the main one. It is a handy tool, especially given the extreme wide angle the Action 2 captures with. If you don't need the screen, a cheaper power-only module is also an option though. Otherwise, on one side we find another button that again mirrors the button on the main camera module, along with a small speaker just above, while on the opposite side we find a single USB-C port used for connecting to a computer, as well as for charging the main unit's battery. Despite the Action 2's built-in 580mAh battery for use alone, which isn't going to last very long, especially when capturing at the higher settings, Both the power and dual screen modules feature a 1300 mAh battery that charges and powers the DJI Action 2. Both modules also feature a micro SD card slot, which supplements the 32GB storage on the Action 2 itself, and you can choose which to save the footage to. The stated 32GB in the camera memory only actually provides around 22GB of usable storage space, so adding the micro SD card option is a definite win. But note that although you can hot swap modules while the camera records, to connect a freshly charged battery for instance without stopping recording, doing so while capturing to your external memory card will of course corrupt your footage, so care does need to be taken. Weighing in at 63 grams, unfortunately modules are not waterproof, so if you know you'll want to take the Action 2 for a dunk and need that external SD card access or extra power, you'll want to pick up a dedicated case, which will cost extra of course. All in all though, the modular system actually works really well. I would have preferred the memory card slot be on the actual camera somehow, even if it meant introducing a sealable flap, but otherwise it's a system that just works. Fortunately, using the camera is just as easy. I've always disliked how you're forced to download an app and register just to use your camera, but nevertheless, once done the unit will check and apply any outstanding firmware updates, which does take a few minutes mind, and I did actually note the camera does seem to get rather warm just applying the update, but even so, after the process completes you are finally ready to use the system. So the Action 2 has a 2-button design, one on the main camera and another on the add-on module, but both serve the exact same function. A long press turns the camera on or off, a short tap starts and stops capture or snaps a photo, while a double tap switches modes. Otherwise, interaction is completely via the screen. The 1.67-inch OLED screen on both the camera and front screen module is certainly tiny, but delivers much deeper, darker colours and richer saturation than the comparatively washed-out Hero 10 Black display. With its touch-optimised menu, I didn't find the Action too fiddly when interacting with it either, all quite snappy and easy to use. Tap on the battery icon to view battery status of the module as well as the camera unit, or swipe from the top to enter camera settings, from the left to browse media, from the right to change field of view settings, although with the Pro mode enabled. Swiping from the right provides more manual control. And finally, swipe from the bottom for resolution and frame rate options. The only really tricky part is swapping modes. You'll swipe to the left or right to change between photo, video, time-lapse, quick clip and slow motion, but you need to make sure you start the swipe from the middle of the screen and not the edges. Voice commands work too, well, most of the time anyways. Stop recording. Take photo. Although the function can be turned off, and it's not a bad idea to do so if you're using it in chatty environments. Oh, and if you're using an external micro SD card, remember to select the correct destination in the settings before you start shooting too. Although as stated, if you're swapping modules, make sure you're not still recording to the memory card before you unplug. And with a memory module connected, you can quickly and easily switch back to the external memory card. Of course, we have DJI's Mimo app for remote controlling the camera too, which connects using Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it works as expected, presenting a live feed from the Action 2's lens on your phone screen. No issues there. Like other action camera apps, it's not an elegant solution for handheld work, and I found I preferred the camera's small but functional touchscreen there, but it is handy if you've got the Action set up on a tripod or have it mounted. Nevertheless, the Action 2 features a 12-megapixel 1.7-inch CMOS sensor and f2.8 aperture. Those aren't particularly impressive specs, but in practice they churn out some good-looking video. The Action 2 can shoot 4K footage at up to 120 frames per second for high-resolution slow motion, or 240 frames per second at 1080p for 8 times slow motion. And those are its maximum modes. There's no 5.3K like the Hero 10, but to be fair, 4K at 120 from a small unit like this is mighty impressive as it stands. Although do note the front screen does not seem to work when capturing 4K at that 120. When it comes to image quality though, I'm generally happy with how the footage from the Action 2 looks. It has some real advantages over the Hero 10 Black for extreme sports fans and vloggers alike, notably a wider angle lens backed by a larger format image sensor. It is perhaps a little strongly saturated and contrasty, but I personally really like it. And more importantly, it did a good job handling high contrast scenes such as dim forest with a bright sky. The Action 2 consistently managed to preserve shadows in such situations while not blowing out the highlights too badly. In-camera color options and video control are pretty limited though, even when set to Pro mode. You can use DJI's default color look or go for D-Cine-like, a profile with lower contrast and color saturation for a flat look, but providing some room to give your footage a different look in post. Perhaps most importantly though, DJI has massively updated their rock-steady image stabilization to a point where it's as good, if not a tad better, than what the GoPro has achieved with their latest camera technology. It achieves that gimbal-like stability and makes it possible to get some really nice, stable, forward-moving footage, allowing you to leave any clunky gimbals at home. Nevertheless, there's also a new horizon steady feature that maintains a level horizon regardless of camera orientation, like many 360 cameras. This is achieved with the GoPro 2, although that needs an expensive max lens mod add-on. Although also keep in mind that while Rocksteady 2 only functions under 100 frames per second, Horizon Steady only works at resolutions of 2.7K or less. Despite the resolution limitation, I found Horizon Steady to be absolutely worth the trade-off when I wanted to capture smooth footage on rough, uneven terrain. When it comes to audio, as with most action cameras, it's still a bit of a mixed bag. The Action 2 itself has a single internal microphone which does pick up sounds rather clearly, but doesn't do well with wind or background noise, which is part of the parcel with cameras like this, I guess. The front-facing LCD adds another 3 microphones, and to be fair, I was impressed for the most part with the DJI Action 2 capturing similar quality audio to the Hero 10 Black, if not slightly better with the module attached. Saying that, as you'd expect from such a tiny frame and a small sensor camera though, as expected, low light performance is fairly poor. Though not the worst I've seen, and not a problem with just the Action 2, but just small camera sensors in general, which is pretty much almost every action camera out there. Still capture is available at 12 megapixel resolution in JPEG or RAW DNG format, and the out-of-camera JPEGs looks just as good as the video, with vibrant colours and dynamic range that's ample enough for tough scenes with mixed levels of light. An important note though, this unit runs hot, and does overheat at higher resolutions. I managed around 6 minutes at the highest settings, so the Action 2 is therefore not a long clip capture tool if you value higher resolutions and keep it stationary with no airflow. On the other hand though, when used outdoors with good airflow, I experienced no overheating issues whatsoever. The camera performed perfectly fine, even when capturing longer clips, so I guess it really comes down to how you intend to use the device and the type of clips you capture. So, with its modular design, incredibly compact form factor, premium finish and altogether great in hand feel, the DJI Action 2 is a great camera. If you're after the smallest, smartest camera around with the widest possible field of view, this is very hard to beat. It does pretty much everything you'd want in an action camera, and it does it really well. It's an action camera that, when reduced to the bare minimum camera module, is so small and light that you really have no excuse not to take it with you. Saying that, it's not without issue. The Action 2 easily overheats at higher resolutions if not provided adequate airflow to help keep it cool. That's a deal breaker for many users, including vloggers. This unit likes to be kept moving with plenty of airflow, and in those scenarios you'll most likely be just fine. So even with the upgrades from the Osmo Action, the Action 2 doesn't quite manage to oust the GoPro Hero 10 Black. Pricing is similar to the GoPro, more at the premium end of the market, but the GoPro provides up to 5.3K 60 capture, an integrated front LCD, and a year's worth of cloud video storage. When configured with its front-facing LCD, the Action 2 is priced even higher, which is a lot to ask for a small video camera, especially one, from my testing at least, is more suited to outside moving footage with plenty of good airflow. Although saying that, I guess the GoPro Hero 10 is in the same boat there. What really makes this unique though is the size and the design. Those who take stationary shots with no cooling airflow will most likely want to hold fire just yet, but if you're after a modular system that's small and light when you need it to be, this could be a wise investment.